Amen. Now, as much as the ancient world doesn't want to proclaim it, I am going to tell you it was women that changed the world that day. Go on, preach, women. It is women. It is women that changed the world that day. Out of love and devotion for their Jesus, carrying out the ritual rites of death and burial, they were faithful to what it is they knew regarding their culture that they had to do. They had to go to the tomb. They had to put the spices on the grave. They had to complete the burial of Jesus. The women were the ones who went the distance for the gospel of Jesus Christ that day. The women did what they were called to do by God, to care for a man they loved and a man they knew. In spite of what everyone thinks, it was the women who made a difference that day. Now, when they got there, their day got turned upside down. Have any of you ever had a day that just got turned upside down? If you know what I'm talking about, say amen. If you've ever had a day that got turned upside down, just say amen. Amen. All right, we're all on the same page then. Because we've all faced life together. And life throws us what I like to use the term, a curveball. I can't hit a curveball. But life throws us a curveball. And do you know what happened to the women when they got to that grave? And the first thing they saw was a massive stone had been rolled away. The stone that covered the grave, that entombed the dead, the stone that held death where death was rolled away. Was rolled away. Now, they knew getting to that tomb, something was different. Something had changed. Now, they could have turned around and gone back. They could have stopped where they were and said, whoa, whoa, whoa. No, sir. I'm not doing that. And there's lots of us in this world, when we see that tomb start to open up and that stone start to roll away, we turn and run. Because we're afraid of what it is God might do in our lives. We're afraid when our circumstances are different than what we expect them to be. We become just like the women were when they first saw that stone. We become perplexed. I heard a wonderful African-American preacher say what perplexed means. It means when your envisioned reality is different than your encountered reality. Did you hear me? When your envisioned reality is different than your encountered reality. You become perplexed in the world. And a lot of us need to learn how to respond to being perplexed. Because you see, the world thought they had crucified. The world thought they had put nails in his hands and his feet and had stabbed him in the side and then laid him down in the grave and he was gone forever. But on that morning when the women even thought the same thing, they went to the tomb and you know what happened? God happened. And the stone was rolled away. And we found victory in Jesus. That's our claim to when our world is perplexed. You need to go one place. You need to go to the rolled away stone. You need to understand that when your encountered reality is different than what you expected your reality to be, that there is a God who moves in your life, and there is a God who moved a stone and unleashed death. There is a God who overcame death. There is a God who left nothing but linens in the grave. And the women were the ones who gave testimony. The women are the ones who gave word. The women are the ones who stayed there amidst the tension and the pain and the angst. And they wanted to know what was going on. They were brave enough to look into the tomb. Now, folks, when we get an unexpected reality, when we get a reality that's not what we envisioned, are we brave enough to look into that tomb? Are we brave enough to walk forward in our lives and face whatever those circumstances are and know that God is with us? Because those women entered that tomb. I don't know about you, but there are a lot of people who don't even like to go to a graveyard at all. When I was a sophomore in high school, the seniors decided to load us all up in a horse trailer and turn us loose in the graveyard at midnight. Now, being in my profession, I've overcome that fear. You know? But there are a lot of us, we don't want to deal with death. We don't want to deal with that perplexed sense of self that comes when we don't know what the reality really is about. But the women, they walked into the tomb. And God revealed God's self. If we'll stay in reality, if we'll look life in the face, if we'll look at the conditions of our everyday life, whether they be good or whether they be bad, whether they be expected or they be different than what we expected, and we become perplexed, if we will look and we will walk forward, and we will know that God is with us, we can walk into that grave. We can walk into that perplexity, and we can know that God is with us, and God reveals God's self to us. You see, because God loves us. God loves us enough that God was willing to raise God's Son from the dead for us, so that we can receive grace no matter who we are or where we are in our lives. And there before them, it's got to be God. Set two men, shining white men, who have to be angels. And the text is honest enough to name the human emotion that all of us feel when we feel perplexed. The text said the women were so scared they fell on their knees. They recognized the divinity of those who were with them. But yet they were scared. They were revered enough. They knew God was present, and they knew how to respect the holy. And God didn't punish them. God did not curse them. God did not say bad things about them or banish them. The angel spoke, and they said this. Why? Why are you looking for the living among the dead? Did you know that's the sin nature of humanity? Did you know that's what's wrong with us? Is we try to define ourselves by a world that's dead. A world that has no spirit to offer us. No grace to offer us. It's a world that's dead, and yet we, you and me, we try to define, try to plan, try to design our life according to a world that's dead. Because if we don't have God in our world, if we don't understand the grace received through Jesus Christ, we're dead. We're spiritually dead. And we're trying to live a life, and we're running on empty. We can't keep running our lives according to our own purpose and through our own substance. We have to encounter the divine. We have to know who Jesus is. For our spirit to reflect His Spirit, we need to know His Spirit. When the women walked in the tomb, they knew God enough to know that right there was the presence of God. And God called them accountable to who they were. Now, I didn't say God was always going to be easy, but God said to them, why are you looking for the living among the dead? He is not here. One of my favorite movies of all time is The Lion King. I love it. It's the deepest movie you can ever watch. And I hear you laugh. But listen. Simba, cast out of the Pride Lands because his evil uncle spread a rumor that he killed his father. And so he grows up out in the wilderness, out of the garden. And he runs from who he is. He's the heir of the kingdom. And someone who was jealous by his title ran him from his own inheritance. People, that's what we do. We try to live to our own accordance. And we find ourselves in perplexed situations. And the divine asks us, why are you looking for the living among the dead? And then he runs into wisdom. Little Simba grows up and he runs into wisdom while he's out in the wastelands. Now, wisdom is shaped like a blue-nosed baboon. And his name is Rafiki. encounter one day, and Simba says, well, you don't even know who I am. And Rafiki, being the wise one that he says, you are wrong. You are Mufasa's son. And Simba, like, you talk about turn on a dime. He turns on a dime, and he says, well, it doesn't matter because he's dead. And wisdom speaks again. Correction. He is alive. And that's the message we as people of God need to hear today. We get into our own world and we run out in the wastelands. And we get separated from the divinity of God and the understanding of grace we receive in Jesus Christ and that which feeds our spirit. And we think our Father doesn't know us. Rafiki said, your Father is alive. We need to remember that Jesus is alive. He's alive in our lives, and He's making us who we are. But we, the people of God, have to be willing to walk the distance, to go where it is God calls us, to admit when we've made a mistake, to admit when we've engaged a reality that doesn't belong to us. That God has a different reality for us if we'll just allow our spirits to be pulled in. To be pulled in. Why are you looking for the living among the dead? Can you name your dead? Can you name what it is you're pushing so hard to define who you are? Is it a job title? Is it your number of great-grandkids? Is it how many years you've been married? Is it how well you can separate yourself from your family and establish yourself as an individual in the world? What's your dead? Why are you looking for life in your pain? God's relieved you from that. God has offered you grace over that. And God has said, don't you remember? Correction. He is alive. He is alive in our lives, and He works every day in our lives if we, but the people of God, will be brave enough to encounter God. And the only way we encounter God is that we remember. We remember a day like today when the sun came up over the trees and God said it's a new day, and all of God's people said, my phone started texting at 5:30 this morning with people saying to me, He is risen indeed. And we, the people of God, need to remember days like this. Remember what He said. He said He would be handed over to sinful men. He would be crucified. He would be beat. But on the third day, He would rise again. It's Friday, but Sunday's coming. Folks, Sunday is here. Jesus is risen from the dead. And we, the people of God, have to be willing to remember who we are. We are God's. From the very time one cell compounded itself into a second cell in our mother's womb, God said, you have life. And God breathed God's life into us. And God has never forgotten who we are. And we, the people of God, no matter how far we run, our God's arms reach out, and God never forgets us. But we, the people of God, we forget God. And we need to remember who we are. That little blue-nosed baboon looked at that young lion, and he said to him, Simba, you've got to remember who you are. And then he said these words, follow me. And he took off into the jungle. And when he took off into the jungle, Simba kind of looked around, perplexed as he was, and he ran behind Rafiki. And he brought him to a pool, a clear pool. Maybe y'all call it a pond out here, or whatever it is you call it in these Texas. And he led him to the edge of that, and he says, look deeply into the water. And this is our condition so magnified. Simba looked with great anticipation and great hope. He looked. That's just me. It's not my father. Rafiki said, look again. Remember who you are. So he looked again. And a voice from the heavens said, Simba, remember who you are. The father spoke. And the child remembered. And the child went back to claim his kingdom. It's Easter. The women left the tomb. They went to find the men gathered up in a room because they were afraid. And they told him he is risen. He is risen indeed. You see, when we encounter the Holy One, when we remember who we are, it is our responsibility to preach the resurrection, to tell your story, to share how God met you in that place when you couldn't even recognize anything but yourself in a pool of water. And the Holy of Holies spoke over you and called you by name. And you were redeemed in the name of Jesus Christ. On this day, let all God's people say, He is risen.